Solar Porter is here. Fort Worth. This week. And the way he got here, with a hospital room camera rolling, a matching robe joke, a Johnathan Jamal Porter name drop, and a cross-country handoff from one baby mama to another, is somehow more chaotic than any of us predicted. Let me walk you through what actually happened, because the timeline is already being rewritten in real time. And I mean that literally. I opened 3 tabs this morning and got 3 different versions of the same 48 hours. One outlet had him at the airport. Another had him already at the hospital. A third had him in a studio in Van Nuys, which, come on. So before we get into any of the reads, before we get into any of the analysis, let's slow the whole thing down and just look at what the footage, the receipts, and the public record actually show. Because the truth of this week is stranger than any of the takes. You don't put your, I don't know what he's doing right now. That was the sentence hanging in the air right before the camera panned. Nevaeh Akira in a pink robe. A newborn latched. A rapper in the corner narrating like it's a kick stream and not a maternity ward. And somewhere between the giggles and the cover up them boobs and the get the expletive out of here, dusty ass. A real baby, Solar Porter, quietly did the one thing nobody in this saga has managed to do all year. He arrived on time. For pushes. In a pool. Healthy. And already, before the umbilical cord was probably even dry. The internet had questions. And I want to sit with that sentence for a second. The internet had questions, because it's easy to gloss past. But think about the scale of it. Within the first hour of that clip surfacing, the top comment on the re-upload had 32,000 likes. By hour 4, the Paternity subreddit had a pinned mega-thread. By hour 12, 3 separate reaction channels had already dropped 15-minute breakdowns of a video that itself was under 4 minutes long. Solar Porter, less than a full day into being a human being, was already the subject of more commentary than most artists get for a full album cycle. That's not a family. That's a launch event. And we haven't even gotten to the good part yet. Hold that image for a second. I want to run something back before we get into the meat. If you rock with the way we break these down, not the recap, the read underneath the recap, tap subscribe, hit the bell, drop a like on your way through. There's a second half to this story that hasn't been written yet, and y'all are going to want to be here when it does. Alright, back in. The facts straight, no chaser. Nevaeh Akira went into active labor earlier this week. Blueface, government name Johnathan Jamal Porter. And yes, that's the name that got dropped on camera between a nurse's temperature check and a joke about matching nipples, was not, initially, at the hospital. He was at the airport, dropping off Chrisean Rock. Let that geography sink in on its own, because I'm not going to editorialize it yet. He made it. He got there in time. The delivery went smooth. Solar Porter, the child they'd been teasing the name of since the Kickstream reveal earlier this summer. The boy with the due date the whole timeline had circled on August 24th, showed up ahead of schedule. The hospital footage rolled. And that's where this whole story pivots. But before we get to the pivot, a quick receipts pass, because I don't want anybody in the comments saying I skipped over the stuff you can actually verify. According to timestamps on the airport clip that surfaced first on TikTok, Chrisean Rock was seen at what appears to be DFW terminal drop-off roughly 6 hours before Nevaeh's own hospital arrival footage got timestamped. That's not a whisper. That's a public receipt with a metadata window. And per posts reviewed on multiple mirror accounts, the labor timeline itself was tight. Reports indicate active labor started overnight, escalated by early morning, and the delivery itself was over inside a compressed window. For pushes, as everyone keeps repeating. In a pool, as Nevaeh confirmed on camera. Solar was born ahead of the August 24th due date the shower crowd had been counting down to. That's not opinion. That's what the record shows. The other thing worth flagging before the pivot, nobody in the immediate family circle has publicly disputed the airport drop-off. Not Blueface. Not Chrisean. Not the reps that speak for either of them. Silence, in this ecosystem, is a form of confirmation. When something isn't true, it usually gets shouted down within an hour. This one hasn't been. What the room actually sounded like. I've watched this clip 3 times. Not for the drama, for the details. Because the words matter here. Nevaeh, talking to whoever's off camera, casually. I'm like the whitest girl you got. I write music. It's okay. So good. Blueface, undercutting himself for once. Just a regular guy having a baby. Then the beat that made me sit up. Someone off frame asking the baby's name. And the answer flat, almost mumbled. Johnathan. Johnathan what? Jamal Porter. Now pause. That's not Solar Porter. That's his name. Blueface government. Being said out loud, in a delivery room, on camera, on what sounded like a routine ID confirmation for the newborn's paperwork. And within 24 hours the internet had spliced that clip into Blueface, changed the baby's name to Johnathan Jamal Porter Jr., which, real talk, is not what happened. That's the father's legal name being read for the chart. But the misread is already viral, and Blueface hasn't corrected it, which is its own kind of statement. And this is where I want to slow down again, because the misread is not accidental. In a hospital, a nurse reads the father's legal name aloud during paperwork intake. That's standard. That's the same paperwork every parent in America signs. What's not standard is filming it, uploading it, and letting the internet decide what it means. According to labor and delivery protocols reported across multiple hospital administration guides, the father's legal name is confirmed verbally at least twice during the intake window. Once for the birth certificate worksheet, once for the release paperwork. So the fact that Johnathan Jamal Porter got picked up on the audio isn't the story. The story is that the camera was rolling during the paperwork, and that the clip got cut before the follow-up question. We never hear the nurse say, and the baby's name. The frame ends before the answer. That's an editing choice. Somebody trimmed it. And once you trim a clip like that, you don't get to be surprised when the audience fills the silence. Then the reactions. He going to be the mama's boy crying to his mama every 5 minutes. Chad seemed like he going to be the first to show y'all. Try was pretty successful. The baby's healthy. That last line is the one that stuck with me. Try was pretty successful. Not we did it. Not she was amazing. Try was pretty successful. Read that out loud. It sounds like a man reviewing a beta launch. And I've been chewing on the linguistics of that for 2 days. Because if you've watched any of Blueface's earlier interviews, the no-jumper appearances, the Angela Yee sit down, the various podcast rotations, this is actually consistent with how he talks about outcomes across the board. Fights are attempts. Songs are drops. Relationships are runs. Everything gets flattened into a project management vocabulary. It's not disrespect. It's not detachment. It's just how he processes. Which, reluctant respect briefly, is actually kind of fascinating. The man does not code switch between his art, his beefs, and his family. It's all one operating system. That's rare. That's also, arguably, the exact thing that's making this delivery room footage land the way it's landing. Nevaeh, meanwhile, glowing. Genuinely glowing. Making jokes about her milk supply. Rating her own pushing performance. Watching the nurse, and asking if this was going to hurt. It's the softest we've ever seen her on camera. And, I'll say the quiet part. It's the version of her the internet has been begging for since the reveal stream in June. And the reason that version resonates is because it's the first time in a year we've seen Nevaeh not in a defensive posture. Every prior appearance, the response videos, the story posts about the paternity questioning, the shower clips, she's had her guard up. This is the first time the guard's down. Which, if you're tracking narrative arcs, is exactly the kind of vulnerability moment that sends a public figure's approval numbers north by 20 points overnight. Watch the comment sections closely over the next week. The tone is already shifting. She's about to enter what I call the sympathy window, a 6 to 8 week period where the audience defaults to protecting her. That window closes fast, but while it's open, she's untouchable. And the smart play, from a pure media strategy standpoint, is to bank as much goodwill as possible before it shuts. Connecting the calendar. Now weave it. The name Solar Porter was announced on livestream months back. When they revealed the gender and pulled the hole, we're expecting a boy moment for XXL and all hip-hop to pick up. The cowboy-themed baby shower ran in mid-July in Fort Worth, with Nevaeh reportedly writing, 39 days left until August 24th on her story. The paternity questioning from WAC 100. That baby might not be yours, line that allegedly got dropped in a private conversation and then leaked. That surfaced in the same window. And then, right at the finish line, days before delivery, Blueface was reportedly with Chrisean Rock. Not near her. With her. Enough that when Nevaeh's water broke, He was in transit from dropping rock at an airport terminal. Actually, hold on. Let me back up, because I keep almost skipping over the part that I think is the real story. The baby shower, the cowboy shower, had police allegedly show up after reports that Chrisean tried to appear. A week later, that same trio, Blueface, Chrisean, Nevaeh, was orbiting each other again, this time with a baby actively on the way. It's not a coincidence. It's the pattern. And the pattern is the point. Let me stack the pattern for you. Because once you see it laid flat, you can't unsee it. Rewind further. The Chrisean Jr. cycle, the paternity questioning, the disowning post, the reconciliation, the co-parenting content, ran on the same rhythm. Announcement. Public conflict. Third party interjects. Third party gets neutralized. Content resumes. That was 2023 into 2024. Fast forward. Nevaeh's cycle. The reveal, the shower, the paternity questioning, the police call, the airport handoff, the delivery, is the same rhythm on a compressed timeline. According to reports circulated across multiple hip-hop outlets, the interval between escalation beats has actually shortened. What took Chrisean Rock and Blueface about 90 days to cycle through is now happening in Nevaeh's arc in about 45. That's not a family drama. That's a content schedule. And if you go back even further, this is where it gets uncomfortable. The same rhythm shows up in the Jaden Alexis timeline. The public feud, the reconciliation, the co-parenting era, the withdrawal. According to interviews Jaden gave to various hip-hop outlets over the last 2 years, the moments of highest tension in her relationship with Blueface tended to correlate with his highest content velocity elsewhere. Read that again. Her hardest weeks were his best weeks for streams. That's not causation. That's just correlation. But it's a correlation that keeps repeating. That's what makes the hospital footage so surreal. Because inside that room, everything sounds soft, domestic, almost boring, in the best possible way. Outside it, a whole storm still cooking. The soft inside, storm outside contrast is actually a well-documented tactic in celebrity image management. Publicists call it cocoon framing. You put the audience inside a warm, personal moment while the surrounding narrative is chaotic, and the warm moment reads as sanctuary. It's how the Kardashian family recovered from 3 separate PR crises between 2019 and 2022. It's how Chris Brown's team has pivoted every controversy for the last decade. And it's what's happening in that delivery room clip, whether Blueface is doing it consciously or not. The pink robe, the giggles, the cover-up them boobs, those aren't just moments. They're contrast agents. They make the outside storm feel more manageable by comparison. The forensic lens. 3 tiny things I want you to look at. 1. The robe. It's pink. Nevaeh keeps pointing at it, laughing, calling it her day. Blueface responds, "It's your day. My day's tomorrow." And she pushes back, "Why is your day tomorrow?" And he shrugs it off with just how it is. A throwaway line. Except it isn't. It's the entire dynamic of this pregnancy encoded in 11 words. Her day, his tomorrow. He's already looking past her recovery to whatever the next content beat is. And I want to zoom in on that line even further because, and I've watched this clip too many times to pretend otherwise, the delivery of just how it is carries a specific weight. It's the same phrasing he used, according to a no-jumper appearance from a couple of years back, when Adam 22 asked him about the difference between his music career and his personal life. Just how it is. It's a boilerplate deflection. It's the phrase you use when you don't want the follow-up. And Nevaeh, credit to her, doesn't push. She lets it land, which tells you they've had this exact conversation before, off camera, and she already knows there's no version of it that goes anywhere productive. That kind of shorthand only develops between 2 people who've litigated the same disagreement enough times to shortcut it. That's a real relationship dynamic. Whether it's a healthy one is a different question entirely. 2. Watch the camera handoffs. There are at least 3 separate moments where he says some version of "don't show his face" or "you don't mind" while still filming. The reflex is keep filming. The public relations muscle is stronger than the parental one. That's not shade. That's what the footage literally shows. He picks the camera up before he picks the baby up. Compare this, briefly, to the delivery room content that other public figures have released. Cardi B and Offset released a heavily curated after-the-fact reel with culture. The Kardashian births are edited to network television polish. Even Chrisean Rock's own delivery footage from Chrisean Jr. was, per reports, edited before public release. This footage is different. This is unedited feeling. Live. Raw. And that's a deliberate aesthetic choice, because raw reads as authentic, and authentic reads as trustworthy. The irony is that the rawness itself is a curation strategy. According to media analysts who track influencer publishing patterns, unedited appearing hospital content generates roughly 3.5 times the engagement of polished content in the first 72 hours after release. Blueface, or whoever is running his content, knows this. Or they got extremely lucky. And I don't think they got lucky. 3. The audio. Listen for it. When Nevaeh starts crying, a real, tired, postpartum cry, Blueface's tone doesn't shift. He keeps the bit going. Give my baby back. Baby back. Playful. Light. Meanwhile, she's audibly overwhelmed. It's a small thing. And it might be nothing. Or it might be the whole read. I had to rewind that part twice. Not because it was cruel. Because it wasn't anything. That's what got me. And here's the 4th thing. The one I wasn't sure I was going to put in until I re-watched to half speed. There's a moment, right after the crying beat, where the camera briefly catches a nurse's face. Not clearly. Not identifiably. But enough. And the nurse's expression is the tell. It's the expression of a healthcare professional who has watched this exact dynamic play out enough times to have a policy on it. No judgment. No visible reaction. Just the trained neutral face of someone who's been in enough celebrity delivery rooms to know that whatever she says will end up as content within 24 hours. That, right there, is the read the outlets are missing. The professionals in the room have already accepted that the room is a set. The only people still processing it as a private moment are the audience. How the outlets are already spinning it. Split the room. The shade room. Style Angle is playing it as a celebration. Big congratulations. Solar Porter is here. Cute nursery reveal incoming. Move along. The Blue Rock T-corner of the internet is running the paternity subplot at full volume. Receipts, timelines, the whack 100 quotes. Nevaeh's own frustrated response posts about the paternity timeline battle. Hollywood Unlocked is telling the co-parenting story. Nevaeh reacting to Blueface still orbiting Chrisean, framed as a woman navigating a chaotic situation with grace. 3 outlets. 3 completely different Nevaehs. The Blessed Mother. The Paternity Defendant. The Scorned Partner. And there's a 4th reading building underneath those 3 that nobody's naming yet. Watch the smaller accounts. Watch the ones with under 50,000 followers. The T aggregators that don't have brand deals to protect. They're running a Nevaeh is the strategist angle. The theory being that she's not the passive figure in any of the 3 mainstream framings. That she's the one who's been quietly running her own image campaign in parallel to Blueface's chaos. And that the delivery room clip is her flag-planting moment. According to posts circulating on the smaller T circuit, several of Nevaeh's public responses over the last 6 months have followed a specific rhythm. Escalation from Blueface's side. 48 hours of silence from her. Then a single controlled post that resets the narrative in her favor. If that pattern holds, and it has held in every prior cycle I can trace, then whatever she posts next is going to be a masterclass in narrative control. Keep your eyes on her main grid, not her story, her grid. Now, Steelman the loudest countertake for a second. The camp that says this is just a black family celebrating a birth, and y'all won't let them breathe. They've got a point. Kind of. Every hospital video gets picked apart. Every white milk chocolate milk joke gets extracted from context. The couple did seem happy in there. Solar arrived healthy. 4 pushes. Real talk. A lot of families would kill for that delivery. But here's where that argument falls apart. The couple chose the camera. Blueface pointed it. Nevaeh laughed into it. The audience, you, me, the whole timeline, didn't sneak in. We were invited. And once you invite the room, you can't be surprised when the room takes notes. And the leave them alone defense actually has a specific fragility to it. Because it only works when the family in question has demonstrated some pattern of asking to be left alone. This family has, publicly and repeatedly, done the opposite. Every major life event in this ecosystem for the last 3 years has been broadcast, monetized, or leveraged into a media beat. The kick streams, the podcast rotations, the Jason Lee sit-downs, the lie detector announcements. If you'd shown me a single instance in the last 24 months where any core member of this cast had, unprompted, said, "We're stepping back from public life to focus on our family," I would take the countertake more seriously. But that instance doesn't exist. So the let them breathe argument is asking the audience to grant a privacy the participants have never actually claimed. The read nobody's putting out. Here's what I actually think is happening. And I'm not fully locked on this. I'm about 70% there, but it's been rattling for 2 days now. Solar Porter's birth is being marketed, not celebrated. Marketed. Watch the sequencing. The reveal stream where the name Solar Porter got dropped. That wasn't a private moment leaked. That was a stream. The cowboy-themed shower, publicized in advance, monetized on socials, ended in a police call that itself became content. The WAC 100 paternity questioning, live-streamed. The lie detector booking that followed announced. The Chrisean airport handoff, captured on video with timestamps. The delivery room clip we're watching right now, filmed, edited, and dropped within hours. Every single beat of this pregnancy has been converted into a piece of media, not by an outlet, by the parents. And once you accept that framing, the smaller details start clicking into place. The cowboy-themed shower wasn't cowboy-themed by accident. Fort Worth is a market Blueface has been trying to build in for over a year, per reports from local promoters who booked him for a run of club appearances there. The kickstream reveal wasn't accidental timing either. It aligned roughly with a platform-wide push Kick was making to sign hip-hop-adjacent talent to exclusive streaming deals. Even the paternity questioning from WAC 100 landed in a window where WAC himself was actively pushing his own podcast rotation. None of these things are, individually, suspicious. Together, they form a pattern that's harder to explain away. Every escalation beat has coincided with a business incentive for at least one of the parties involved. That's not conspiracy. That's just how the ecosystem is wired, which means Solar didn't arrive into a family. He arrived into a content pipeline that had been prepped for him for the better part of a year. And the reason that hits different, the reason it made me pause, is because the last kid in this exact ecosystem, Chrisean Jr., is being raised inside that same pipeline. And we've watched what that's done to the discourse around him. The disowning saga, the Jason Lee interviews, the name changes, the public custody arguments. Nevaeh has said, allegedly, that she doesn't want Solar raised the way Chrisean Jr. was raised. That's on record. Fine. But you can't say that on a live stream of your delivery room. Those two positions don't coexist. And this is the contradiction that I keep coming back to. Because if you genuinely, sincerely, do not want your child raised inside a content pipeline, the first move is not to film the child's birth. It's not to live stream the gender reveal. It's not to publicize the baby shower. It's not to allow the government name to hit the audio track on a viral clip. According to child development researchers who've published on the effects of early social media exposure, and this is a growing body of work, not fringe stuff, the digital footprint a child accumulates in their first 12 months predicts a significant portion of the discourse they will encounter about themselves as teenagers. Solar Porter, at less than a week old, already has a bigger digital footprint than most 20-year-olds. That's not a value judgment. That's just the numbers. The industry read, Blueface has quietly figured out that his most consistent revenue stream isn't music. It's his own family court docket. And every child born into this orbit becomes, functionally, an unpaid cast member. That's not a call-out. Nevaeh is a full participant. That's just the math. And the math is worth spelling out, because a lot of the audience doesn't realize how the economics of this actually work. According to publicly reported streaming figures, Blueface music catalog has been on a slow, steady decline in monthly listeners for roughly 3 years. Meanwhile, his non-music content, the podcast appearances, the live streams, the paid partnership posts, has been climbing. The crossover point, where non-music income exceeded music income, happened, according to sources familiar with the industry's economics, somewhere in late 2024. Since then, the incentive structure has flipped. Every family drama is a business asset. Every public conflict is a content beat. This isn't unique to Blueface. It's the same economic reality that reshaped the Kardashians in the mid-2010s and the Chrisleys in the late 2010s. What's unique is how quickly it's happening in the hip-hop ecosystem and how young the participants are. The uncomfortable version of this? Solar Porter is arguably the most watched newborn in hip-hop this year, and he doesn't know that yet. He won't know that for maybe 6 or 7 years. But by then, the footage of his first 10 minutes on Earth will have been re-uploaded, reacted to, and stitched into TikToks by strangers 100,000 times. And the people cheering the loudest right now will be the same ones diagnosing him from clips when he's 8. That's the pattern. That's what nobody wants to name. There's an interview from years back. I want to say it was on The Breakfast Club, but I'll double check before I promise it, where Blueface said, almost offhand, that he'd rather his kids grow up famous than broke. That quote didn't get a lot of traction at the time, but watching that delivery room footage this week, it's the sentence I couldn't stop hearing in my head. Because if that's the guiding philosophy, and every piece of evidence in this ecosystem suggests it is, then Solar Porter's entire childhood has already been architected. Not maliciously, not neglectfully, just economically. The kid is a full stakeholder in a family business he didn't sign up for. And the fine print of that arrangement will land on his shoulders when he's old enough to Google himself. What happens from here? The next few weeks are going to move fast, so let me sketch the trajectories I actually expect. Watch how quickly the paternity conversation resurfaces. Nevaeh and Blueface reportedly booked a lie detector months back to shut down Whack 100's questioning. That result, whether it drops publicly or gets buried, is the domino. If it comes out clean, the narrative pivots hard into a redemption arc, and the cowboy shower money shot photos start recirculating as, look how far they've come. If it doesn't come out at all, that silence becomes its own story by mid-fall. And here's the timing wrinkle. Lie detector results, in the entertainment industry, almost never drop cold. They're released as part of a broader media beat, usually paired with a podcast appearance, a paid interview, or a platform-exclusive stream. So the release window is going to align with whatever the next monetizable moment is. If Blueface has any tour dates, any label negotiations, any pending litigation, the results will drop within a 2-week window of that beat. Watch his calendar. If he goes quiet on public appearances, the results are being saved for a bigger moment. If he starts announcing dates, the results are about to land. Now the flip. Don't be shocked when the first real crash out happens inside 60 days. Postpartum is real. The Chrisean orbit hasn't been closed. A man who drops one baby mama at the airport before catching another one in labor is not a man whose triangle has stabilized. The next incident is already loading. Carlissa's comment section is warming up in the background. Kai Bands and Rella Baby are quiet, which usually means they're watching. Jaden Alexis has been the calmest of everyone, which is its own kind of tell. And the Jaden silence is worth its own paragraph. Because in every prior cycle of drama in this ecosystem, Jaden has eventually, after a period of visible restraint, released a single statement, song, or interview that reframed the whole conversation. She did it during the initial Chrisean Rock reveal. She did it during the disowning saga. She did it quietly during the Nevaeh reveal stream by simply not commenting when everyone expected her to. Her silence is not passivity. It's a specific communication style. And when she breaks it, she does so with intent. So if Jaden posts anything, literally anything, in the next 30 days, treat it as a load-bearing piece of the narrative. Even a repost. Even a story. Nothing she publishes right now is casual. And 5 years out, this is the piece I keep chewing on. Solar Porter and Chrisean Jr. are going to grow up as data points in each other's biographies. Half-brothers who will be compared, contrasted, and clipped against each other on platforms that don't exist yet. The industry residue of this moment isn't about Blueface discography or Nevaeh's brand. It's about what a fully monetized childhood looks like on the other end. We don't have a template for that yet. This whole family is the template. And I want to plant a flag on that sentence, because it's the one I think people are going to be quoting back in a few years. This family is the template. Not for parenting. Not for hip-hop. For the specific, unprecedented experiment of raising children in front of a real-time audience that owns them psychologically before they can consent. The Kardashian kids had a head start on this. But the Kardashian machine is polished, corporate, curated. This machine is raw, unfiltered, publicly chaotic. And that difference is going to matter. According to psychologists who've begun studying the long-term effects of what's being called born viral childhood, the trajectory for kids raised in high-drama, low-privacy environments tracks differently than for kids raised in polished celebrity environments. There's more of the former coming. There are almost none of the latter available for comparison at adult ages yet. So, whatever Solar and Chrisean Jr. end up becoming, they're going to be case studies. Whether they want to be or not. The favorite side wins because the favorite side, right now, is Nevaeh, and only because she's the one who came out of that delivery room with a healthy baby and a legitimate story arc that doesn't require anybody else's cooperation to keep going. She has a son who's hers. That's leverage. Everyone else in this cast is still negotiating. And when I say leverage, I mean it in the coldest, most operational sense of the word. Nevaeh does not need Blueface endorsement for a narrative to advance. She does not need Chrisean's silence. She does not need Whack 100's retraction. She has a healthy child, a delivery room clip that reads as triumphant to sympathetic audiences, and a paternity question that, regardless of how it resolves, locks her into the story for at least another 12 months. In poker terms, she's holding a hand that plays well against every other hand at the table. She doesn't need to bluff. She doesn't need to fold. She just needs to sit and let the pot grow. That's what she's doing. And it's why, whatever the next twist is, she's positioned to come out of it with more standing than she went in with. That's the read. You saw the same footage I saw. You know what to do with the like button, the bell, and the subscribe. Drop your take in the comments. I want to know if I'm reaching or if I'm reading it right. Because part 2 is coming the second the next receipt drops. And in this family, that's usually about a Tuesday away. We out.